Hello fellow photographers, it's great to have you here. So, you're out in the field and you come across a once-in-a-lifetime scene. You're overwhelmed as you try to decide how to photograph the particular subject. What settings do I change first? What are the different photo possibilities here? What do I do with this light? What do I prioritize? I know the feeling, and although there is no recipe, there is definitely a certain thought process that I apply when coming across a photo opportunity. And that is what I'll be sharing with you in this video, but not in an ordinary way. You'll be joining me out in the field on a game drive as we come across real-life wildlife scenarios, and I'll talk you through my thought process. If you love seeing footage from Africa, remember to subscribe to our channel for more photography, travel and conservation content from this beautiful continent. I'm Danielle Carstens. I'm a professional wildlife photographer and photo safari host in Africa, from Africa, and I lead photographic safaris throughout Southern and East Africa. Today I'm coming to you from the beautiful Mashatu Nature Reserve in the east of Botswana, the ideal location to find a variety of wildlife to photograph. So come along, let's get into the field. So we've just come across this beautiful elephant and I'm going to try and frame him through the bushes. Always think of framing when you come across an animal in a area of dense vegetation. Then framing works really well. So the first thing I would think about is he going to move, and do I need to get a safety shot first? He looks pretty relaxed and I'm sure that he's going to stay where he is. So I have time to play around with my settings. And I've positioned the vehicle so that I can get a frame of the foliage in front. Okay, so the first thing I'll do when I see him, I'll decide how he is lit compared to his background. And as you can see, he looks like he's lit the same as the background. There's no high contrast between him and his background. And therefore I won't have to compensate too much on the light, so don't worry about that. Okay, as you can see, the focus is picking up, my tracking is picking up on the leaves, because focus will always pick up on whatever's closest. So I'm going to change to a static focus and leave my tracking. I'm just on single point focus. There you go. Single point focus catches onto the elephant nicely, but I still have the leaves in the foreground. Now if you want to blur the leaves in the foreground more, you'll see I'm at f8. So go down on your f-stop if you do want to get a blurrier foreground and background. He is quite close to his background in the sense of depth of field, so I've gone down to f5 there. Just be careful with a large animal, because if he faces you, your focus point has to be pretty accurate if you're at a low f-stop. I'm on manual auto ISO, so you'll see my ISO goes up to 1000, which is absolutely fine. And then it's just a case of waiting for him to do the right thing, basically. So we've just entered this beautiful croton forest, and it's beautifully shady. As you can see, it's the perfect habitat for a leopard or a lion lazing in the shade. Let's see if we can find them. Right, so there's the classic leopard in a Mashatu tree that you often see here at Mashatu. However, the first thing that I notice is the bright background behind it, and for that we'll have to overexpose. The leopard is extremely relaxed, so it really doesn't look like it's going anywhere, so I have time to play around with my settings. So you'll see I've zoomed in quite a bit. I'm going to overexpose. Always remember that the leopard takes priority. The sky will blow out as long as the leopard is exposed well. That's the important part. So you'll see I'm overexposing, but as I'm overexposing, you suddenly notice, do you see that there is a twig right in front of the leopard's face? So that's unfortunate, and we're going to see if we can reposition. What you also might notice is that the highlights on the leopard are blowing out. So I'm going to go down to save the highlights, and I'm going to recover some of the shadows in post-production afterwards. We've repositioned the vehicle, and as you can see, it's a much better angle. The leopard still has the white bits on him, the highlights, that are quite bright, so I won't overexpose too much, and I'll definitely work on it, as I said, in post-production to bring up the shadows. But we've got rid of that, managed to get rid of that twig in front of the leopard's face. Now I'm shooting quite tight, and you'll see that the sky is quite bright behind the leopard. If I zoom back, we can also get more of a habitat shot. Just remember that now there's more sky in the photograph, and keep in mind that I am on evaluative metering, which is matrix or ESP depending on the brand that you're using, but I'm on matrix evaluative metering, meaning that it's taking into account the whole scene's light. So the more sky in the scene, the more I have to compensate for the shadows. So I'm going up even more on my compensation, and I'm watching that hotspot on the leopard. I'm thinking a beautiful black and white conversion here. Reason being, there's contrast in the scene, and contrast works really well for a monochrome or a black and white conversion. So as you can see there, a lot of white sky in my frame. As for settings, now that we have our position, I'm at an 800th of a second, f5, but my ISO is 5000, which is okay for most cameras these days, newer cameras. But my thought process is, the leopard's lying sleeping on a branch, so I mean I can go down to 400th of a second, which brings my ISO down to 3200, which is absolutely great. I can go down even further because I'm stabilized on a beanbag and the leopard is sleeping and not doing anything. Keep in mind that if you expect movement or behavior that happens quickly now, then obviously you'd be at a faster shutter speed. But for now, it's easy to photograph this leopard at 3/20th of a second, f5, and the ISO is at 2000. Just look at this beautiful scene that we've come across. There's wildebeest here, there's an elephant drinking, but the most stunning part of the scene is the backlit baboons. So as you'll see here, I'm not even underexposing that much. Look at that beautiful rim lighting. Alright, so my thought process here is I immediately saw the beautiful light on the baboons. Now initially you might want to go always to the sunny side of a subject, but that's really not the case here. You want to be opposite the sun and have that beautiful rim light showing up around them. They're furry and they make the perfect backlight subjects. So let's have a look here. Right. As I said, I don't really have to underexpose that much, and you still get a beautiful outline of the baboons. The important thing to remember here is when you're seeking out a subject, make sure they don't overlap, because the only thing you have to identify the subject with is the rim, the golden rim around them. So they need to be able, you need to be able to identify them as a baboon. So side profiles work really well, or even if they're looking at you and they have a shape and light on their ears that easily identifies them as a baboon. The wildebeest are also kicking up a lot of dust. Dust and backlight go so well together. So you should look for a situation where you get the dust backlit, the sun coming through, and a single baboon with an identifiable shape. So let's see if we can find them. The other thing is, if I use my tracking, it's jumping between subjects. So I'm changing to single point here, and I'm seeking out the best subject that I can find. It's important in this situation to look with your eyes as well, not only through your lens, because often through your lens you miss out what's going on around and you miss a perfect rimlit subject. So keep looking with your eyes to see if there's an ideal subject. There's so many here to choose from, actually, it's not that difficult. Okay, I'm going to go up on my shutter speed because they are moving. I'm going to go up to about 1000 shutter speed. Remember, I'm on manual with auto ISO, so I'm keeping an eye on my ISO, which is pretty irrelevant in this situation because I'm shooting into the light. So generally the lighter the scene, the lower the ISO will be, so that's not really a worry. You might find that your camera struggles to focus. When you're shooting into strong light, then you might find the camera hunts for focus, and the trick there is to focus on a rim. So find contrast to put your focus point on. So there where the golden outline of the baboon meets the dark background, that's where you want to be focusing, not in the middle of the black baboon, because then the camera is not going to be able to acquire focus that easily. Also better if you have a complete rim, a full rim around, identifies a subject much better. Oh, look at that wildebeest running in the dust. By the way, Tuli, we're in the Northern Tuli Game Reserve, means dust. So it's very applicable for this scene. This is a scene that photographers dream of. This sort of backlight with dust and action is absolutely fabulous. What a lovely afternoon. The light's pretty much done for the day. This is a good time to just take it all in and enjoy being in the bush and experiencing how the day comes to an end. There we go. That was one successful game drive. I hope you enjoyed getting out into the African bush with me. Let me know in the comments whether you follow a similar thought process or if the wildlife scenarios are much different where you are. I'd love to hear from you. Remember, you're always welcome to contact us for advice or with any questions that you might have. Until next time, enjoy your photography. Bye-bye.